So, video talking about unit conversions. Let's go. So, unit conversions to make things kind of simple for you in a science class. They're really important. They're very very helpful. And these could be simple things like turning seconds into minutes. They could be things like turning hours into days. It could be things like turning moles into grams. It could be things like turning lumens into candela. Many 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 options. Okay, and what I'm trying to teach you here is just a skill. So the skill applies to any conversion. And, I say any, and watch, there's going to be one somehow that exists that doesn't work. Uh-oh, and my wife has decided to do some modern art on my canvas here. But yeah, they're very, very, very helpful. And we use them all the time. So when you're in a science class, you're going to say, man, unit conversions, they're so darn useful. Or you're going to say hate them. Hopefully not that one. So how do they work? Well, any conversion implies that there's equivalency between two things. So if you're like, I don't believe you, we all live in America. I shouldn't say that. Maybe people outside the country watching this video. But if I say 12 inches, you say that is equivalent to 1 foot, right? You go, that's true. That's what makes a foot a foot. It's 12 inches, and 12 inches is a foot. These two things are yin and yang. They go together very nicely. Okay, so I can take this information and I can turn this into a fraction. Okay, so I don't know why I erased all that, but we'll do it again. I can take this, and I don't care which one you pick as your numerator. It doesn't make a difference because we can always flip it. We want to turn this into a fraction. Okay, and in algebra, as long as there's an equal sign, I can do things to one side as long as I do it to the other side. All right, so I'm going to take my, let's say, 12 inches and get rid of them. So I divide by 12. The 12 go bye-bye. The inches also go bye-bye. Okay, I did it to this side. I have to, therefore, do it over here. Now, let's clean this up a little bit. We take that, and you say it's gone. And hopefully, you're not thinking of a certain number here. You're not thinking of a number that I'm silhouetting right now. What's left behind is this. It's 1. Okay, because guess what? These two things are equivalent. And because these two things are equivalent, because their quotient is equal to 1, it means that I can willy-nilly, as much as I want, take this and put it there, and take this and put it up there. I can flip it so that it's equal to this, right? 12 inches per 1 foot. Either one is acceptable. And however you wrote it this first time, it doesn't make a difference because you could always flip it to the other one. As long as you keep the number with the unit. It's 12 inches per foot, not 12 feet per inch, right? So just make sure you're consistent on that. Okay, so that has a name, by the way. I probably should type the name before I erase everything, but those are called conversion factors. All right, the word conversion, pretty obvious. They allow you to convert. And then factors, because we multiply by them. Okay, so that's kind of an important part here, is that we're going to use these to multiply. You might say, no, I know we're going to divide sometimes. Well, the way I'm going to show you, it's always multiplication. The division comes up naturally, okay, because multiplication and division are inverse operations, right? Division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So you'll see what that means in a second, okay? So let's take a practice problem. Let's say, I don't know, I say 120 inches to feet, converts to feet, okay? And there's many of you that are just saying, oh, divide by 12. Well, how do you know it's divided by 12? And you say, well, that's what it's got to be. It's got to be a smaller number. That's because you're used to it. That's because you know this. But if it was a new unit, or maybe you're watching this in some other country, maybe you're in Singapore, and you're like, wait a second, inches to feet, I don't know. What we would need to know is how many inches are in a foot. So that information would be given to you. We would say 12 inches is equal to 1 foot, and then you would turn that into a fraction. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter what you put in the numerator to start, because we can always flip it if we need to. So I'm going to take my numbers that I have, in this case 120 inches, okay, and this method I'm showing you is often called the lattice approach. It's sometimes called the ladder approach. I think I prefer calling it the fence approach. I don't know, it looks like a fence to me, so the fence approach. There's probably some sophisticated name that I'm supposed to know. It's the Babouche method. I have no idea. Okay, the fence method works as it looks like a fence. So we have 120 inches, and now I need to get rid of the inches, which means I want the inches in my conversion factor to be on the bottom. Okay, so if you're like, hey, 12 inches per foot, right, if that's what you picked, you would say, well, that's not going to work. I better flip it. If I flip it, I get 1 foot per 12 inches. This is good because inches cancel. You say, why is that? Numerator, denominator, like terms cancel. Okay, inches are a unit. They're essentially being multiplied by 12 if you think about it. So we're basically canceling this out because they're the same. Okay, you're left with feet, and hey, that's what I want, right? That's what this question is asking for. So that's good. We're left with the unit we're looking for. Now you do math. 120 times 1 divided by 12, which happens to be 10 feet. Okay, easy problem, hopefully you'd agree. Okay, and again, you're probably tempted to say, I don't have to do all that. I can just divide by 12. Well, let's try this problem then and see how we do with that. So if I were to say, I don't know, let's type it. I have, I don't know, 200 liters. How many gallons do I have, right? If this was a problem, right, this is a conversion problem. We're just converting gallons to liters, right? And you got to know how many liters are in a gallon. And I'll tell you, I don't expect you to just memorize this stuff. There is 3.78 liters is equivalent to 1 gallon. Okay, and there might be a rounding thing, like, it could be 3.7821, right? I'm just rounding to the hundreds place. Okay, we have this information, and guess what? That's all we need to do this problem. So let's draw out our little fence. Okay, and we have 200 liters, so 200 L. And then we're multiplying by one of these fractions. Recall, you could put gallon in the numerator, you could put liters in the numerator. Hopefully you're telling me, well, it's got to be gallons in the numerator, because I'm trying to convert to that, right? I'm trying to convert my liters to gallons. So 1 gallon per 3.78 liters. This looks good because the liters cancel out. That's good. We're left with gallons. That looks great. And this is going to equal what? Let's pull up our calculator, because I don't know off the top of my head what that's going to be. So this is 200 times 1 divided by 3.78, which simplifies to 200 divided by 3.78. And let's say I'm rounding to the hundreds place, so that's 52.91 gallons. All right, and hopefully that's not that bad. Okay, again, this problem, maybe you correctly said, I'm going to divide by 3.78, but if you do it this way every time, you'll never make a mistake, because you'll see, oh, the units have to cancel. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so hopefully I'm convincing you that this is the way to do it. If you still don't believe, you're like, nope, let's try a slightly harder one. Okay, let's say I had, I don't know, how many years is, I don't know, 5 times 10 to the 8th, 10 to the 8th seconds. Okay, so for this problem, right, I mean, you're like 5 times 10 to the 8 is a big number. That's, 500 million seconds, okay? I don't think anybody listening to this instantly knows how long that is, right? I don't think anybody's ever said, I'll see you in 500 million seconds. At least I hope not. That would be a little bit concerning. So let's go ahead and do this one. We need information. All right, so let's give the information. And I'll type it up here, I guess, probably a little bit faster than me constantly having to write it out. So let's do up here. So we would say, what? 1 year is 365.25 days. And yes, it is 0.25 because of the leap year every 4 years. So just FYI. Let's see, we have 24 hours is a day. Right. We have 1 hour is 60 minutes. And then 1 minute is 60 seconds. Okay, so this information should be all we need to do this problem here. Okay, so you can see there's going to be a few more steps, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and draw out our little fence. This will really look like a fence for this problem. So 5 times 10 to the 8th seconds, that's what we're starting with. Okay, and hopefully you're like, okay, we got to get rid of the seconds. So my game plan, I kind of call this a little game plan, is, we're starting with seconds, and I got to get to years. and you ask yourself, is there any way to do that in one step? And again, more than likely the answer is no. Unless you happen to know how many seconds are in a year, which is unlikely, you're going to have to use this information. So I might say, okay, let's go seconds to minutes to hours to days to years, right? You don't have to do this every time, but I think it helps you, especially if you're new to this, to be like, okay, I'm going to have to do this many conversions, okay? Technically, the order doesn't matter, okay? A times B is B times A, but it kind of helps to see it goes sequentially, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's write this out. So we have seconds. I got to get rid of seconds. I better use this one down here. So it's going to be 1 minute per 60 seconds. Okay, fence post. This is good because seconds go bye-bye. Okay, now in minutes, now I better use this next one. So 1 hour. See if I can save space here as best I can. 1 hour per 60 minutes. Again, this is nice because the minutes are going to go bye-bye. Now we have hours. Now we can do days, right? So 24 hours down here. Remember, we need canceling of units. 1 day. All right. And hours go bye-bye. Now we have days. Last step would be the 365, 125. So 1 year. You can see how easy it is, by the way, to just think, oh, put that up here. But again, you got to make sure things cancel. That's the key here. Okay, so then 365.25 days. Okay, and again, I'm using a mouse to draw. Oh, look at that. Omen Gaming Hub is coming up with a Clash of Clans or Clash Royale. I don't even know what that is. I feel like an old man making these videos. Anyway, okay, fence post. And now I've run into my little thing here, so let's erase that. But this is your setup. And what we're making sure of course, is that everything cancels that needs to cancel. And we should be left with what? We want years. Hey, look at that. We got years left over. So this looks good. Then I can pull up my calculator. Okay? And the way you should put this in, not that it's the only way, not that it's the even necessarily the best way, it's just a way that I think everybody can do relatively easily, is start with a parenthesis for your numerator. So in my numerator, I have 5 times 10 to the 8th. Okay. Oops, there we go. Times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1. Okay, and you're probably saying, do I really have to do that? No, I'm just being thorough. I think it's kind of silly to write all the ones, but if it makes you feel better, feel free. That's the numerators. We then divide by parenthesis. Again, this is important. When you do this, you have to make sure you use parentheses. Otherwise, you can have PEMDAS problems. And those are the worst kinds of problems. So 60 times 24 times 365.25, close parentheses. And my calculator is giving this. That's not the answer. I got to hit enter. And I get my answer of what? About 15.84, we'll say. I'm going to round to the hundreds place. So I have an answer of 15.84 years. Okay. Again, I highly doubt anybody looked at this and was like, "Oh, that's clearly that many years," right? These conversions are not that hard, but if you don't write things out, if you don't write units, it can become quite challenging. Very easy to mess it up. Okay. So I think for now we'll stop the video there. Get some more examples in a different video, I'm thinking. But for now, basic conversions. This should be good. Okay. Hope you had fun.